I always thought that the crap that I did while I was drinking had no value. I went through a lot of crappy times. Uh, and this is how I would describe them, like, oh, this is just what did I do? This is just such a shitty moment. How could I be such a jerk? How could I have, you know, done this? And what value does that have? How does harming somebody ever have any kind of value? How does that work? And so, when I came into, a sober lifestyle, then, those regrets of what I had done in the past had followed me in, of course. They weren't going anywhere. And not without inspection, not without looking at them, and not without you know, reapproaching those relationships that I'd harmed. And and so, they just cycled around in my head for a while before I got to anything like the eighth and the ninth step. And I lived with a tremendous amount of regret. And these, in a way, it's like these are these unannounced voices that just come in when I see a certain condition, outside. I see somebody behaving the same way, and then all of a sudden I'm reminded of this, and then that activates the feeling and of guilt and shame, and gets my head spinning about how to solve my present, issue of guilt and shame over something that I did in the past. And that's the play that happens inside my head. And there were so many regrets, and that there were lots of voices, if you will. It's why, when I had my moment of clarity, I called my brain basically like a committee of squirrels. It was just chattering at all times because there was so much that I didn't know what to do with. I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand the connection between how I felt and what I thought, or how to, and I definitely didn't understand my relationship to you, right? There's two kinds of people in the world: you and everybody else. There's more than that, but it's a good way of looking at, how am I behaving towards relationships, which is what the ninth step really is all about. And um and i but I didn't know, excuse me, I didn't know what to do with that stuff. And luckily, the steps kind of showed me, how to handle it, how to confront it, how to look at myself for the first time, right? Fourth step and fifth step gave me a chance to look at myself as honestly as I could at that time, and share those honest reflections with somebody else, and hear my own rationalizations and justifications for things, and so hear then the falseness of all of that. And um and then the ninth step was really a question of, you know how do I reopen myself? How do I become willing and reopen myself to relationships that I thought, I had burned and salted the fields, if you will, that I had destroyed the bridges. There were closed doors on both sides. Everybody else had a closed door. I had a closed door. And of course, I was still feeling like, because I had done all this terrible stuff, valueless. Like none of those experiences had value. Oh boy, was I wrong. I mean, this is a weird one, right? Because, like, I don't want to say that you should go out and create chaos in order to reap value later on. That's not the lesson. Um, but the fact of the matter is that I caused a lot of harm. And uh, the ninth step, where I went out and I talked to those who I'd harmed, um, and tried to rectify the situation, made the attempt, the honest, thoughtful attempt, not just go in there willy nilly, but to talk about it. That every time I did that, that helped lessen the number of regrets that I had in my in my head. So it lessened the amount of noise that my brain and my heart were making. And uh, one experience that I'll share with you, which was a really cool one, was that I was wanted. I had a warrant out for my arrest in Virginia, and I had it for years, and finally I was walking down, I think it was like Bank Street on Church Street, and I saw a police officer, as I'd always done. And every time I saw a police officer, I always thought, is this, are they coming for me? Right? Like every time. And I just got sick and tired of it. I got so tired of constantly having this thought. I went to my sponsor and I said, what do I do? And he said, well, you might want to get a lawyer. So that's what I did. I called up down in where, where the warrant was, and I talked to a lawyer. I hired a lawyer, talked to a lawyer, and these were things that I'd never even considered. I wasn't in a position to be able to hire a lawyer. I thought all the time it was a fear of mine. And my lawyer gave me steps to do and things to get, and like basically build a file on my current existence. I was like, I think 4 or 5 years sober. And I did those things. I just, made the checklist and checked them all off. And then I went down and I had my day in court, and the judge was, he told me it looked like I had, made a good life for myself, and that I had made good on the kinds of behaviors that I had been dealing with down there, and to pay my court fees and have a good life back in Vermont. I was like, thanks, buddy. Sayonara. Please don't affect my community anymore. Which is totally fair. But that's it. I mean, I exposed myself and opened myself up to that relationship that I had harmed with the state of Virginia. And I had, and that's not something that's no longer a regret inside my mind. And now what I get to is the thing that I really want to talk about with the 9th step, is that there's kind of an analogy that I love about it that works for me, and I've been saying it for a few years, because I still see it this way. It hasn't changed yet. But all of my past, I kept saying was, shitty. All these experiences that I created were, crappy. They were just terrible things that I had done. It was crap. My life was crap. The world is crap. Like everything around me was just crap. It's just crap everywhere. And the 9th step, well, it's actually 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th step, showed me how to turn it over, which is a phrase that I didn't understand. Like, what do you do? What do you mean you turn it over? Well, basically it means confront it, look at myself, look at the justifications and rationalizations that I make, tear those aside because those mean nothing, and just look at the conditions of myself, right? Take that stuff out of there, and then just look at myself with someone else, with somebody that I respect, very important, and then contemplate it, pray on it, meditate on it, whatever form that takes for you, and then confront the relationship after careful consideration again with somebody that I respect, right? Re-enter that relationship. It's like 2 doors closed, right? Like I can open up my door, but that doesn't mean somebody else is going to open up theirs. They can keep theirs closed. I've opened up mine, and I make the knock, and I say, I say, hey, I apologize. I was wrong. Here's something in the hand to come and say, I've changed. This is the way that I do things now. And that's the process of turning it over. And here's the analogy that I love so much. When you take a bunch of crap, right, like, which is what I, describe my life as, and you turn it over, what happens when you turn over crap over and over again? You keep turning it over. When you keep looking at the same thing and you just keep turning it over and over and over, it becomes composted. It becomes fertilizer, right? And this is, what gets a chance to grow in this is in this fertilizer of my mind is our new perspectives. In other words, I'm not regretting, whereas beforehand I had many regrets. Now I've reopened myself to this relationship. I've my perspective has shifted, and that is something that I can pass along to someone else. And so it's like these crappy moments that we go through, even if they're beyond our control, especially when they're beyond our control, are not hopeless moments. They're not. They're moments that in the future will very often become valuable experiences for someone who's going through the same thing, right? So anybody who has been lost like I have when it came to living life and stuff like that, when they come in, I get a chance to relay experiences like that one and share with them, divulge with them honestly and openly what my life looked like and the things that I had to do, or the things that I did, that shifted those perspectives and allowed me to live in, with more harmony with other people, and with more openness and honesty with other people. And so it's incredibly it's enriching. It's like the soil of my mind becomes enriched by the crappy experiences that I have. And here's a knock-on benefit for anybody who's gone through it, is that my present moment crappy experience, whatever I'm going through, is I can reflect on that and I can say, okay, this will have value in time. Just be patient. Just hold on, go through the process, look at it honestly, see what's going on, and it'll be okay, because it is okay. It's always been okay, which is an amazing knock-on benefit from that particular process. I'm very, very thankful. And not to throw in another metaphor or whatnot, but it's very much like Rumpelstiltskin, turning gold into, or taking straw and creating gold. It's incredible. And so it's like, I hope that you don't have to, deal with a crappy condition in your life, but we all go through these things. But, they're not hopeless. They're not the hopeless things that I thought they once were. There's a lot more to them, and there's a lot more to life than what I originally thought. And I'm very thankful for that.